One of the jobs I enjoy doing most is being the bishop liaison with the Commission on Ministry and the people who are in the ordination process. And we used to ask seminarians to come to our convention. When it was in May, that was easier for many of them. I only know of one seminarian who is here, Scott Rieker, who is sitting over there. But if there are others, as I call your name, do stand up. We have quite a wonderful list. I'm also going to mention the parishes that are sponsoring them. Seniors who will be ordained on December 3rd, God willing, are Carolyn Buser, who is sponsored by St. Mark's Church Highland, Angela Furlong, Grace Church Newmarket, Charity Hum, Middleham and St. Peter's, Herschel Wade, St. James, Baltimore, and Scott Rieker, Emmanuel, Cumberland. Middlers, if you haven't been to seminary, but most of you have not, a middler is simply the person who's in the middle. It's a 3-year program usually. We have Connie Bowman, who is from St. Andrews Glenwood, Jennifer Mariano at All Saints Frederick, Kristen Paul at Trinity Elkridge, Matthew Reese at Grayson St. Peter's, Natalie Tinner, St. Michael's and All Angels, and Karen Ekholm, who's from St. Margaret's, Annapolis. I didn't mention their seminaries. Maybe I should. Well, I think that takes more time. Let's just go on with, you're more interested in where they are from rather than where they're currently going. Juniors who are in their first year of seminary are Vivian Campagna from Redeemer, Baltimore, Daniel Catalano from All Saints, Frederick, Nathan Harpine, Guardian Angel, Baltimore, Amelia Bello Santana from Resurrection, Baltimore. She is, by the way, from the Dominican Republic and in her first year at VTS. David Smith, who is from St. James, Baltimore, Ann Stick, who is from the Cathedral of the Incarnation, Sarah Miller Schult, who is from the Church on the Square in Baltimore. Postulants who are non-seminarians at the present time are Santana Bartolowus from All Saints Frederick, Joan Beckett Armstrong from Holy Trinity Churchville, and Thea Cimento from St. Anne's, Annapolis. Postulants who are in some kind of non-traditional setting are Kelly Gerhardt from St. John's, Hagerstown. She is working on her Anglican studies, having been trained in a non-Episcopal seminary. And Mark Ludwig from St. Matthew's, Oakland. Kiona Luckenbill, who is also working on her Anglican studies, who is sponsored by St. John's, Ellicott City. And we have the following persons in diaconal training: Carolyn Armstrong from Memorial, Baltimore, James Reeves from the Cathedral of the Incarnation, Gail Tucker from St. Anne's, Annapolis, Walter Tucker, better known as Chip Tucker, at St. Anne's, Annapolis, and Rebecca Warlow from Christ Church, Columbia. I'll have more to say about these folks when I give my address.
Thanks be to God for all of these who have discerned for ordained ministries. As you heard yesterday, we have a shortage of priests in this church. We have a shortage of deacons in this church, and it's affecting all of us. These congregations have lifted up these persons, and I encourage all of you, especially all of you priests, identify people in your congregations who you think may have that particular vocation to discern for. We are very grateful to all of them. So, my friends, now to the business. We're now going to debate our resolutions. We are not going to do that. We are going to hear one quick thing and then a longer thing. My friends, we have grown as a diocese since yesterday. Joining our diocese is Soraya Adelaide Callender. Soraya was born last night at 10:36 p.m. at 7 pounds and 1 ounce to Randy Callender, the rector at St. Philip's, Annapolis, and his wife Katja. Apparently, Soraya, we're told, is already a church nerd. She was crying up a storm, and her daddy sang "Seek Ye First," and it calmed her down immediately. And so, congratulations, Randy and Katja, for that. What about the rest of you? Okay. I now call upon my colleague and friend and mentor, and in every way assists very well in this diocese in the Episcopal ministry. I present to you the Assisting Bishop of Maryland, formerly known as the 13th Bishop of Maryland, Bob Ihloff, to give his address.
A little over 3 years ago, when Bishop Sutton asked me to take on the position of assisting bishop, I jumped at the opportunity immediately, without any regrets. I give thanks daily for the opportunity to work with Bishop Sutton and for Bishop Sutton, and I also am very grateful to him because he is someone I respect and admire greatly. He's been a wonderful colleague in ministry, wonderful at sharing ministry, and has become a trusted friend. In addition to sharing Episcopal visitations on Sundays and other Episcopal duties around the diocese, Bishop Sutton has asked me to be the primary bishop responsible for those in the ordination process and working with the Commission on Ministry. He has also asked me to have some special responsibility for the westernmost part of our diocese, the Western region, which includes Allegheny and Garrett counties. Both of these responsibilities give me great joy and take up a great deal of the time that I give to the diocese. Presently, if you were keeping track, there are 48 people in the discernment track for ordination as aspirants or up to candidates for ordination. Early in the process, I meet with each of these applicants, and then we talk about a particular program which may be useful for them. Some years ago in this diocese, we abandoned the sense that one size fits all, and so we try to meet people where they are and provide them with the training that will be most useful for them and bring them to the place where they are feeling they are being called to ministry. But they don't do that just between me and them. The Commission on Ministry also meets with these people on several occasions. There are approximately 25 members of the Commission on Ministry. They are equally divided between laity and clergy, male and female, and we pointedly include a number of persons of color, LGBTQ persons, and members from all parts of the diocese. Now, realizing that most of the laity that are on the Commission on Ministry are not here, let me just ask those of you who are here, who are on the Commission on Ministry, laity and clergy, to stand at this time. I should also say, I want to include in that clapping the mentors. So if you are a mentor for EBM or DOV, would you also stand? And over there. I ask you to do this because these are people who give extraordinary time to the life of the diocese. This is a very intentional process that we have developed, and over the last 3 years we have revamped the ordination process. We've changed the handbook, we've changed our procedures, we've shortened EBM and DOV, which is Exploring Baptismal Ministry and Discerning Ordination Ministry. Each of those used to be a year-long program. They're now a 6-month program. which enables people to move faster through the process, and some people we exempt, or I exempt, and the Commission exempts from doing that work because of other ways in which they have done their discernment. It is a great privilege to serve with those dedicated men and women who relate to the Commission on Ministry. In addition to the ones that I mentioned, we also have examining chaplains, some of whom are here, that are involved in reading the ordination questions that are posed to them in their diaconal service. And I am particularly very indebted to our two archdeacons, Frank and Ruth, who are involved very much in the training of our deacons, as well as later Ruth is involved with Bishop Sutton in their deployment. Mentoring and assisting others to answer their calls as clergy and laity is holy work. It is a work that I have long cherished. For a 20-year period in 3 different seminaries, I was a field ed supervisor, and that's now called contextual ministry, if you're more recent in seminary. That was an opportunity to mentor people in the process. I was the chair of the Commission on Ministry in my former diocese. I must say that that commission, good as it was, cannot compare to the wonderful quality of the people we have working in the ordination process in this diocese. Nationally, there are many more clergy retiring every year than there are clergy being ordained. Canon Wright gave some witness to that yesterday. Most parts of the Episcopal Church have already been experiencing this shortage, and we in Maryland are beginning to experience this. Especially in smaller parishes, we frequently get very few applicants, very few people interested in being considered. And even in some of our larger, really vibrant parishes, we get only a handful of people to be considered. Each year, fewer and fewer parishes in our diocese can afford full-time clergy. Everyone in our process understands that the church of the future will be made up primarily of clergy who will have to be bivocational. We make sure that people understand this at the beginning so that they do not have false assumptions about what they may be able to do, especially if they're looking at priestly ministry. The Commission on Ministry and I have developed various ways for people to train to be priests and to be deacons. Many of our persons in priestly formation are doing most or sometimes all of their formal study online. CDSP, Church Divinity School of the Pacific, where we have our second highest number of seminarians, is a school that offers a program whereby you only have to be a resident for a month, 2 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks in January, and the rest of all of your work can be done online. We are also working, as you will hear in a moment, with another seminary that is entirely online. And of course, St. Mary's Ecumenical Seminary, which has long been involved in the training of all of our deacons and many of our priests, is also a seminary that you can do most of your work online. In the past few years, in addition to using St. Mary's and other seminaries, we have a number of students who are now enrolled at Stevenson School for Ministry. This is an entirely online seminary developed by our neighboring diocese, Central Pennsylvania, and now co-sponsored by Central Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, and Maryland. In addition, we have students enrolled in many of our more traditional seminaries. Specifically, we have people at Yale, Berkeley. We have people at Virginia Seminary, which is the largest number of students that we have in a traditional seminary. As I say, the second largest is CDSP. We have students also who are doing their work. I'm forgetting something, but I should have put that in my notes. But Sewanee, how could I forget Sewanee? Yes, thank you. Sewanee is the other seminary that we have several students at, and a recent graduate who is sitting right over there. I want to thank the members of the Commission on Ministry, our mentors, and our examining chaplains, and particularly our archdeacons, for the way in which they have helped in the formation of the people who are going through the process. We have people who range in age from 20 years old to 78 in the process. The 20-year-old has not finished DOV, but he is looking at diaconal ministry, and he was not mentioned among the names that I mentioned, who are people who are more formally in the process. Our oldest person in the process will be graduating from Virginia Seminary this year. She is 78. And we are living into the canons of our church. Unlike some dioceses, we will not let age be a discriminatory factor in people being ordained for ministry. This is a wonderfully diverse group of people. They well represent the diversity of our diocese. Most recently, we are partnering with Stevenson School of Ministry in applying for a major grant that will enable the school to offer courses in lay leadership, lay preaching, lay leadership in worship, pastoral care, and administration. This is being done because a number of dioceses, not including our own as yet, are creating lay vicars. When I was assisting in the Diocese of Virginia, I was proud to be able to relate to two of the lay vicars who are very able people, trained to be lay vicars, where a retired clergy person comes in twice a month to celebrate Eucharist, but the congregation is sustained by an ongoing resident lay vicar. That's something that we need to look at in the future, but that will be the responsibility of the new bishop of the diocese. As with most aspects of our diocese, we are preparing laity and clergy for a church of the future and its needs. Now, we don't know what the church of the future will look like, although we have some clues, but I feel very confident that the work that we are doing in Maryland will prepare people for that future. And those will be leaders, but they will be raised up in very different ways. I was initially hampered by COVID in being more present in Western Maryland. For those of us who live in other parts of the diocese, whenever I say Western Maryland, I mean it's after you cross Seidling Ridge and Seidling Creek and are squarely in Appalachia in the diocese. That doesn't mean Ellicott City, where we are, is in Western Maryland. Now, I make that distinction. It's not just mine. That's been what we have referred to as our western region of the diocese, and that's been a distinction for a long time. But because it is specifically very different from any other part of our diocese, even Washington County, which is also in western Maryland in a sense, but is not in Appalachia and is a very different part of our diocese than those two counties. Those are the counties which feel most isolated from this diocese. And over many years, the diocese has tried to create avenues to really help people in that part of the diocese to feel more affirmed and be a part of us. They are closer to the city of Pittsburgh than they are to the city of Baltimore. We have 7 parishes in those two counties, none of which has now the resources to continue to support a full-time parish priest. Yet all of these parishes are vibrant and alive. Bishop Sutton and I have gone on record as saying we do not want to see any of these 7 parishes ever go under. Many of them are the only part of their community, the only institution in their town which is able to assist people with their basic needs. As other denominational churches have closed in many of these communities, our church often emerges as the only active church in the community. There are beautiful, dedicated Christian people in all these parishes. I have been working to create a clergy team among the 7 parishes there, And recently, the wardens of all 7 parishes have agreed to meet with the clergy monthly and myself to talk about opportunities to share ministry, to do outreach into their wider communities, to reintroduce an Episcopal presence at Frostburg University, and to increase ecumenical work in Western Maryland. We have been raising up local people and training them for 24 years in this diocese, thanks largely to the efforts of Bishop Rabb and the Commission on Ministry back at that time. We began a program of raising up local people from Western Maryland, putting them through education and turning them loose to be ministers in their community, which has been so much more effective. We went through years of sending people from different parts of the country into what is, I think, arguably the most beautiful part of Maryland, but discovering that they didn't want to stay there because the congregations were small, they weren't familiar with people in that kind of setting, and they couldn't wait to get out of Western Maryland. So now all of the clergy who serve in Western Maryland have roots in Western Maryland. And that is extremely important, and some of our most vibrant priests in this diocese are some of our clergy in that westernmost region. When we introduced this during my episcopate, there was great angst, especially among the ordained clergy, about how we were creating a second class of priests. I think all of you who know any of the priests from Western Maryland can attest that there is nothing second class about them. They are wonderful priests, and they share very easily in all of the aspects of our diocese. I believe that some of the work we're doing in Western Maryland will become a model for some of our small parishes, especially in rural communities, but also in the city of Baltimore. We have a terrible time finding parish priests to serve in some of our smaller parishes in Baltimore, because we aren't raising up Baltimore people who love the area, love the people, and want to serve there. Thank you. I am appreciative of the applause, but that's really in my heart. Again, that's a decision that will have to be made by another bishop. But I have no doubt that that's what the future church is going to look more and more like, people raised up in their local settings to be trained as lay leaders, to be trained as clergy persons who will then not be moving around as much, although they have the ability to do that, but will be staying put and really dedicating themselves. Again, small parishes have a terrible problem of people coming for 2 or 3 years and then leaving, and that puts them at great disadvantage. Now in my 27th year as a bishop, I often say, and only partially joking, I'm going to keep doing this until I get it right. I hope in my 80s that I can serve as an example to many of you that God is never finished with us, not in this lifetime, and I presume not in the life to come. I keep learning, growing, and being renewed. Ministry, as all of you know, is always a two-way street. We go off to minister to people, and we find our own needs are being ministered to in the process. What an extraordinarily talented, dedicated group of priests and deacons and lay leaders we have in this diocese. You should all give yourselves an applause. Having served in 5 dioceses before this, and 1 diocese as an assisting bishop that is not this diocese, I can say I am very proud to be able to serve among you such a fine group of people. I thank all of you who have walked this journey with me over 27 years, and I trust will continue to do that. Serving in Maryland is keeping me younger than my chronological age might suggest. I find our relationships stimulating, affirming, sometimes challenging, which is what life is all about, and growth is all about. If we're not challenged, we're not growing. And I find it always to be a blessing. 25 years ago, Nancy and I made the decision that we would live the rest of our lives among you. we jettisoned our plans to move back to New England, where our family lives. It has been a good decision. You are our support system, our friends, our extended family, plus the fact that all of our doctors are at Hopkins. You can't... At our age, that's important, and you can't get much better than that. I will retire again at the end of June 2023, when our new bishop-elect will come on staff. Even now, I am working with my spiritual director to plan what kinds of ministries I will continue to be active in. I will, of course, be stepping back as an assisting bishop, and I have, at this point in my life, no interest in replicating myself in some other diocese. But I hopefully will be able to be a supply priest for many of you. I plan to do spiritual direction, that is, give spiritual direction. Some of you know that my Doctor of Ministry degree, earned way back in the 80s, is in group spiritual direction. So that seems something that I have not attended too much, and I want to attend to. And the other thing that I have postponed all of my life is sitting down and writing. And that is something I am going to discipline myself to do in my new retirement, which will only be, as my other retirements, a partial retirement. I count it among my highest blessing that I have been married to Nancy for 56 years. Thank you. I told her last night how many of you still ask about her, and she would love to be here, but physically it's very difficult for her to sit in chairs like this for a long period of time, and she's much less mobile than she used to be, but her mind is still alive and well, and we love this diocese, and we love you. The other chief blessings, in addition to my 2 children, my 6 grandchildren, and my 1 granddaughter at this point, and still counting, is you. You have become a family. You have become our home, and you have become a very dear part of both of our lives. And so, while I will not be your assisting bishop at your next convention, and probably won't even come to the next convention, I mean, why would a bishop come to the convention if he didn't have something to do? You will probably see me around, and that will be a great joy for me. But I want to thank all of you for the love, the care, the tolerance, and the challenges that you have given me over the years. They mean more to me than I can possibly put into words. God bless you, and thank you.